अंकित है। मस्त।
Hi everyone, evening. We will start in the next couple of minutes while we're waiting for everyone to join in. So we'll start at sharp 4:05. All right. A very good evening to each one of you who's here today. Looks like a full house. So we have a lot of learners who are attending across the country from different cities being a part of this webinar. So warm welcome to each one of you. So we'll go for next about 60 minutes or so starting now. I will quickly share the agenda in terms of what we will be covering today. So having said that, let's follow a couple of thumb rules. As an attendee, you would be muted. But we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So keeping that in mind, most of you are already chatting on the chat window. So do post your questions at any point in time, any queries you have, please do feel free to put that across. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, as an attendee, you will be muted, but at any point in time, do put your questions across, okay? Thank you so much for being a part of this session. It's a promise from our end. The next 60 minutes is going to be super exciting, a lot of knowledge sharing that's going to happen from our end. So please do be attentive. Okay. So on that note, let's begin the session. How are you all doing today? Is it a great evening? Let me see how many of you figured out the chat window so far. How's the day going so far? Great, great. Good to see. Wow, thank you, Sushma. I love that word, awesome. Great, guys. Thank you so much. Just quickly give me a heads up if you're able to view the screen. Awesome, Ashley. Good to hear. It was a great day for you. Great. So let's proceed then. What do we have in the room for you today? Firstly, of course, a lot of you are new. A lot of you would need a quick heads up in terms of what we do as a firm. I will take just a couple of minutes to help you understand that. And then we move into the main part of the session, so wherein we will be covering these topics in terms of helping you understand what are the top data science trends this year, what are the qualities of a next-gen data scientist, which is the core topic of today's webinar. What are these companies looking for? What do organizations look for in this particular domain? How do you build those skill sets, right? We'll talk about what are the skill sets you need as an individual, and then how do you build these as well. So how your data science project should look like, what is a roadmap for it? What is the future for you in this domain? We'll talk about that. And then we will move on in terms of the critical part of the session, which is you will have an interaction with our alumni as well. So we have 3 of our alumni who will be joining us today. So in that particular discussion, we will talk about their entire journey as to where they started and where they are right now, how they were able to build these skill sets and successfully get into the data science domain. So we will have a journey debrief, which will be conducted by Joy, who heads the career services team here at Imarticus. And in the end, we will, of course, spend a good amount of time in answering all your queries that you have. All right. So just a quick note, any questions you have, put it in the chat window. Do not put it in the Q&A window because a lot of us are not checking the Q&A window. Just put it in the chat window because it's already live. Okay. So this is what we have packed for you guys today. So moving on, just a quick update in terms of what we do as a firm. So broadly, we started in the year of 2012. And here we are today. We have trained close to about 50,000 learners across these different sectors like finance, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, digital marketing, technology. All of these sectors is what we cater to at this moment, right? And we are headquartered in Mumbai. Our main mission, vision, or goal, if we talk about, is simply put it across to bridge the gap which exists out there between our education system to the industry, right? So we've backtracked it, we've understood what is the requirement of the industry, what do we mean by a job-oriented program or a job-oriented curriculum, which each one of you should equip yourself with, and then all our programs are built. Right, so we want to bridge this gap, which was our motto when we started Imarticus in 2012, and we continue to live up to it. And that's that's probably a summary of what we are doing right now. In India alone, we are there in about 15 cities where our presence is also there outside the country. So we cater to all of these different sectors, and we are helping learners like you gain these skill sets so that you successfully are able to, one, get a job in that particular industry, which itself becomes a lot tougher. And second is survive in that industry. Okay. So this, what you're looking at on the screen are our founders. That's Nikhil and Sonia. They started Imarticus in 2012, and Mumbai is where we're headquartered. That's about what we do as a firm. So broadly, we're a training and a placement company. Okay. So moving on, I'll talk a little bit about today's speaker. So post this, I'm going to hand over the session to him. So we discussed about the agenda in terms of what we'll be covering today. So this is going to go on for next 30 to 45 minutes, as I mentioned earlier. So Karthik will be today's host, today's speaker. He comes with over about 10 years experience in data science domain as such. He heads the analytics and data science here at Imarticus Learning. And having worked for over about 10 years in a lot of MNCs, like we talk about Amazon, we talk about Mu Sigma, all of these companies is where he's worked, and his expertise is something that we always value. So Karthik, over to you. So from here on, I'll stop sharing the screen.
Sure, Vinita, thanks a lot. And very warm welcome to everybody present, and good evening. I know folks from across the country have dialed in for this session, and given the interest of time, I'll quickly start sharing my screen and we can get into some real core stuff, right? So let me know if you're able to view my screen. I'm just starting to share my screen, but just help me confirm if you're able to view my screen.
Yes, we can.
Awesome, great. So like Vinita mentioned, right, we'll start with we'll talk about a few core things essential in the data science industry, and we'll start with what are our top data science trends in 2022. These trends keep evolving, and the reason why we are talking specific about this year is because this is a post-pandemic year. There are industries keep changing with time, but data science industry is one such industry that changes rapidly, and it happens every now and then. And it's important for us to be on our toes to kind of understand where the industry is headed, and accordingly be very cognizant and anticipate what changes can happen, and ensure we are on top of it, right? That's the reason why I've kind of the many trends as such, but I've kind of synthesized that into top 6. The first of its kind is definitely we're looking at smarter, faster, and more responsible AI. What I mean by that is people are expecting our devices or our artificial intelligence to be a lot smarter. Let's say, for example, it could be any of your voice assistants like Siri or Alexa or Google Home, where people expect these devices to give every single answer for the question they ask, and they cannot wait, right? It has to be quick and within a turnaround time of few milliseconds. Otherwise, we're losing out on our customers. And lastly, being more responsible. We just cannot answer random things, but it has to be responsible enough. Because let's say when we take these AI applications into a scenario like pharma or in terms of life sciences, we are there trying to work with people's life and death situations. So AI needs to be responsible enough to take decisions smarter, be fast, and at the same time be more responsible. So this is the emerging trend that we are looking in the last couple of years, and especially in a post-pandemic situation, right? That's theme or trend 1. Moving forward, we're looking at slight decline in the dashboard, but dashboards are here to stay. But what I mean by decline in dashboards are not, I'm not trying to say the dashboards are going to end. No, that's not the answer. What we are trying to say here is, dashboards which are just static, we are seeing a decline of that. The dashboards that are more dynamic, meaning dashboards which are just not projecting numbers, but the ones that kind of tells you a story, right? That is what I mean by a dynamic dashboard, which kind of tells us the why, which kind of tells us the how, the what happened. And just by not looking at simple numbers or, those kind of dashboards are declining, but more in terms of being more responsive, being more visually rich, and being more responsive in terms of decisions that you can take, right? That leads me to the third big trend, which is around decision intelligence. We've talked about business intelligence in the past, where we are trying to look at data to take business, decisions as such, and we are moving to that next level of decision intelligence, where how can data help me not just look at what's happening, but how can I take decision on top of that, right? How can automation, how can AI systems help us make better decisions with the help of data, for which I don't have to have too many of my manual overhead to take the right decision. So the trend that's emerging is how can AI systems help us make our decision more intelligent, decisions that are more that are faster, and that caters to the market needs as such. The fourth one of its kind is cloud is a given. Basically, what we try to mean by that is there's a big migration or digital transformation that has been on for a few years, where big chunks of data has been, it's there in terms of our storage, but how do we ensure that we are able to capture them and then able to make sense out of the data and then use that data to take decisions in that previous segment that we saw, right? So all of this data is now trying to move into a cloud interface, meaning on a cloud storage systems, and trying to not have physical infra as such, where you need to do a lot of things, but there are ready-made infrastructure available, and you just do a plug and play and stitch things together to make better decisions as such. And the fifth one is more to do towards NLP and conversational analytics. What I mean by that is your NLP stands for natural language processing, and conversational analytics is where we are in a conversation, and how can we make more sense out of the conversation that either humans have or either systems have. It could be, again, your voice analytics or voice assistants like Siri, Alexa, and Google Homes of the world, where we are trying to look at data that comes in terms of a conversation, and how can we look at what intent does the customer have, or what is the sentiment that the customer is trying to express real time, right? With the help of NLP packages across various tools, how does NLP and conversational analytics move to that next round from the current situation? And the last of its kind is also graph analytics, where we are looking at better ways of data storage and better ways of data retrieval that happens when stored in a mechanism of graph as such, and how can we store more data and search data effectively to make better decisions as such. So these are roughly the top 6 trends that we are seeing in while some of them have been around, but these are taking that next exponential curve to move to that next level, right? So in short, just summarizing these 6 trends: smarter, faster, responsible AI, declining of dashboards which are not dynamic, decision intelligence, cloud infra being the next, it's already the in thing and the next big thing, NLP and conversational analytics, and graph analytics. So with that as the context, I'll move to the core segment of what qualities of what are the qualities that we're looking for of a next gen data scientist. And in essence, what I mean by that are what do organizations look for if we were to hire data scientists? What are the kind of people that we want to be working with, right? Then broadly, again, I've looked at 5 to 6 different big buckets, which are classified into both technical aspects as well as behavioral aspects. Let's start with the first one, which I think is the core ingredient of any data scientist, is the statistical way of thinking, meaning there's a lot of stats and math that goes behind any problem, right? So this particular person or a data scientist needs to be thinking statistically, or should be able to understand stats and the math behind each of these algorithms well, understand the statistics behind how to infer few things from a particular result, or how do you convert a business problem into a statistical problem, because that's where we try and solve the problem, right? Using a whole lot of machine learning algorithms and so on and so forth. So the statistical component becomes very, very important for a data scientist. The next important chunk on the technical side of it is the technical acumen. What I mean by that is we're looking at these folks to be good coders. They need to be able to, write SQL queries, write Python codes, or whatever be the language. It could be R, it could be SAS, it could be Scala, Python, whatever, right? The idea is to be having that coding mindset. The idea is to codify things, or when these business problems are translated into a statistical problem, how do you codify things and look at results or infer results, for which you need a lot of coding skill sets to be built as well. And the last one around this is the articulation skill set, where how do you, take the business component or the domain knowledge and articulate the story well. The journey of problem solving doesn't lie just by applying your statistical concepts or your coding skill set, but also how well can you articulate or synthesize, how well can you define a particular story, or the art of storytelling, or with data, right? That comes very, very essential in a role of a data scientist. And one few of the key traits that we look at outside of the core things would be the behavioral or the additional soft skills that are needed, right? It is to be more inquisitive, be more curious, ask more questions, and that kind of helps you unearth many details of a particular problem. And that is what organizations look for when they look for data scientists or trying to hire roles to solve business problems. They want them to be more inquisitive and ask more questions, because that is how you can clearly define a particular problem statement and work towards it. And then there are ways to be a lot more creative and having that approach of a problem solving mindset. When I say creative and problem solving mindset, it's to see how can you think outside of the box, not just by looking at what are my first principles based on problem solving, but also how can I look at different cuts of the problem. How can I try solving a problem if I do not have enough data? Not every time do we get 100% of data to solve a problem. There'll be some misses. So we'll have to look at alternate ways, alternate approaches. So organizations look for approach of problem solving than the end results. Of course, the end result is important, but we really look at how does this person go about solving a problem if I were to give a problem, right? Let's say a very simple example of, if I were to ask you, how many newspapers get circulated in Bangalore or wherever you are from in a particular day, then while there is some answer XYZ number, but we really look at how can you break this problem into smaller chunks, make assumptions, look at data, look at the stats that we have around this problem, and then holistically come up with a problem solving approach. So that's the kind of mindset that we want, along with in the previous slide that I talked about, having the right statistical horsepower, the mindset of a coding mindset, along with articulation skill set or understanding the domain well, along with these three smaller components of being more inquisitive, creative, and having that problem solving mindset, right? So those become my very, very core ingredients that we look for in a data scientist in this fast evolving space. That's what I've kind of put in this slide, where we talk about statistical knowledge, coding, business domain, and problem solving as on the whole. So what skill set should you build? These are the top skill sets that we should be building for any good next gen data scientist. And the next automatic question is, how do I build those skill sets, right? These are skill sets which takes time, and how do I do that to acquire each of these skill sets? Many of us might come from one of the backgrounds. Let's say you might be coming from a coding background, or you might be coming from a math or a statistical or an econometrics background, or none of these. So it's important for you to start building those skill sets to become a complete package of a data scientist, right? So that's where we look at solving many problems. And how do you do that is, or rather how, here are just few instances that I can think of. There are many ways, and maybe Joy can talk about it in the later half as well as to how can Imarticus help. But what I am trying to paint that picture of how can you start solving more problems is, there are many hackathons or Hacker Earth, Hacker Rank, these kind of websites which host hackathons on a regular basis. So why don't we pick up those problems and try solving those, right? But the ingredient to solving those, I will talk about that in the next slide, which means there are problems that exist which are real world scenarios. Like say there are a few problems hosted on Coursera, Kaggle, GitHub, and I've kind of put a couple of repositories where there are real world data sets available, like the Google dataset search, where if you type, let's say, COVID-19, you get all the publicly available data sets there, or University of California's machine learning repository, which has a good archive of a lot of real world data scenarios, right? The idea is to solve many problems, because that's when you kind of get the essence of solving problems. And that to me is an art, and that comes with experience, that comes with solving more problems, and not just some practice problems which has 4 to 5 features as such, but real world complicated, which has many more features, which has a clearly defined path of a problem as such. So you need to start solving problems, right? In order to solve problems, what do you have to do? You need to acquire the right set of skill sets, which is again what I talked to you in the previous slide. So you need to be having the right set of skill sets, meaning the coding skill sets, the statistical or the mathematical skill sets, or the business acumen, right? Along with the smaller components that I talked about. So how and where can you go about doing that? That's what I'm talking about in this particular slide. Is there are so many tools, hosts of tools available for us to solve problems. Not every problem is a machine learning problem. So there are some descriptive analytics problem which you can solve with simple Excel and Tableau. While there are some complex problems which needs a lot more of it, which might need an R, which might need some Python, it might need an NLTK package or TensorFlow, or I don't know what not, right? There are a whole lot of machine learning and deep learning algorithms out there. But the idea is, for what problem, what kind of algorithm do I use? That is what you should learn as data scientists, so that if I throw a problem at you, we don't really look at how do you solve it. Of course, that comes at the second half, but the idea is for you to start solving and be able to give me a solution or a recommendation through the analytical approach. And these problems that you can look at by solving, on the left, I've kind of put the various packages in Python, and on the right of this table, there are many packages from R, where the idea is nowadays coding. Back in those days, there were for a simple algorithm as such, they would need many lines of codes. But now that has gotten a lot simpler by these auto-ready libraries and packages that we can use. Say, for example, within Python, if you want to build some simple visual layers, right? So you can use Seaborn, Bokeh, or Matplotlib to plot those. Or let's say you want to do a small SQL query within the R interface, use SQLDF. You want to build NLP-based models, or understand data better on the unstructured side, you can use the NLTK package. So the idea is to start using these components to solve a holistic real-world problem. Or let's say the word cloud or Twitter R to extract Twitter data, ggplots to plot on R, so on and so forth. Right? These are just some samples that I've put here, but there are tools available, there are problems available. The idea is how can we start solving problem, and that's where you sharpen your skills by solving many such problems to become a good data scientist, or what the industry or the organization expect. Because problems are here to stay. We'll only get more problems, we'll only get more data because of the kind of evolution we've seen in the last decade. So it's important for us to sharpen. I'm just trying to walk through a simple data science project as such. What is a typical roadmap, right? It starts with a problem definition. You collect the data, you clean the data, do a whole lot of pre-processing, and then a good amount of exploratory data analysis happens, where you look at univariate analysis, bivariate analysis, so on and so forth. And then, if need be, we do a lot of feature engineering and building models. And then the subsequent things around model hyperparameterization, model evaluation, and model deployment to finally report and monitor. This is an iterative process, and for us to be able to do this hands-on, quick, in real-world scenarios, you need to be able to build those skills that I talked in the previous slide. Say, for example, a whole lot of SQL, that is for your step number 2 and 3, a good amount of SQL plus Python plus Power BI dashboarding activity in step number 4, and then the machine learning and the stats component kick in from step 5, 6, 7 onwards, and then the number 10 where you need a lot more of dashboarding activities, right? So the idea is to stitch all of these learnings together and solve any problem that I might throw at you. And that's what a typical data scientist would be, and that's what we expect out of the next gen data scientist, right? The last slide that I want to emphasize on is what does the future look like? Because there's so much emphasis on in this space that we want more such people, because this is a very, very niche area, and we're trying to fit in interdisciplinary skill sets of a statistician, of a coder, and an MBA business folk into one, which is a data scientist, right? So the future here looks extremely bright. And from the trends that I've seen back in the days, like let's say 10 years ago, there was a simple titles of business analyst or BIEs. But now today I've seen so much increase, and that's the first 2 pointers on this slide here, where there is a big surge of increase in data science roles across India and across the globe. Yeah.
My apologies to cut this off. We actually have one of our alumni, Ankit.
Yeah.
So he has an urgent meeting. So before we proceed, can we ask Joy to have a quick interaction with Ankit, and then we resume with your part of it?
No worries. I think this will take just another 30 seconds. I can wind it up. Like this is the last slide. It's almost there. So I think we can wind it up in the next half a minute, and Joy can take over. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, the first 2 points that I ran to make was to essentially there's clear demarcation of roles today, meaning there is clear distinguishing between a business analyst versus a data analyst, data engineer, BIEs, business intelligence engineers, data scientists, ML engineers, AI engineers, ML ops engineers. It's becoming so crystal clear that these roles are defined well, and then there is a lot more creation of the jobs. And then what we're trying to do now at this point is trying to normalize the data science education, or democratize that, to help everybody learn the secret of how do we solve problems, right, in the industry. So that's what we're trying to normalize data science as an education. And there's so much more advancements in terms of research, in terms of patents that are happening in the space of ML and data science. So the future here looks super bright, because problems are here to stay, and companies and organizations would want to solve their business problems, come what may, for years to come. And data as a new oil is here to explode further. So there's never a dearth of data or problems. It's only the shortage of data scientists that we have, and that is where we want to normalize this scope of data science education and help more and more people get into this field and solve more problems, right? So with that, I'll kind of wrap it up. I know we'll get into the next segment, but I'm happy to take questions at the end, which you can post in the chat section, which Vinita mentioned, and I'd be happy to answer many more questions towards the end.
Thank you, Karthik. Good evening, everyone. This is Joy Vas, Head of Placements at Imarticus Learning. As Vinita correctly mentioned, we have 3 of our students who have been placed by us in recent times, who are here to share their experience with us. And without taking much time, I would like to introduce our first alumni. His name is Ankit Hiremat. He is a student of our postgraduate diploma in analytics and artificial intelligence course from Pune Center. And he has recently been placed by us at a very reputed firm, in a very well-known firm in the analytics world called as Tiger Analytics. So because Ankit has an urgent meeting that has come up, I would not take much more time, and I would like to call upon Ankit to come and share his overall experience of learning with Imarticus, and eventually, us helping him in getting a job. I would like him to share his experience with us. Over to you, Ankit.
Yes. Hi, am I audible?
Yes, Ankit, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, yes. Before I begin, I would really like to apologize, Karthik, because I had to barge in this way. Actually, I have a KT right now, so I had to join as soon as early as possible. But so, yeah, I'll just share my experience first. So, hi guys, my name is Ankit Hiremat, and I have recently been placed in Tiger Analytics as a senior software developer in big data and AWS. So coming back to Imarticus, I'm from Imarticus Pune branch. So over there, I was doing my PG in analytics and artificial intelligence. So I really had a very good experience. The faculty over there was really good. I remember Pranjal sir, who was our main faculty over there. So he was very experienced person, very well knowledgeable. It was really good while we had this course going on. It was an offline course, and I really enjoyed it. It really gave us the insights. Whatever Karthik was telling us right now, those all stuff was covered in them. The process of building a module, whatever he was telling, those steps, I still remember it because it was such well taught to us, and I really liked whatever was there, whatever we were taught at Imarticus. So yeah, and of course, related to interview part and all, we had many mock interviews done, and everyone over there was very helpful, very imprompt, very prompt. They were really give us very fast replies for very different kinds of doubts, whatever we had. So it was really a good experience overall. And I would really like to thank Sahil. He was really helpful during the process, whatever I was going through. So thank you, Sahil, if he's there today. So that's it. That's it from my side. So if anybody has any questions, you can ask right now, and we can move ahead.
Thank you, Ankit. Sahil is very much a part of this call.
Yes.
Right. Anyone has any questions for Ankit? He's happy to take it.
So I completed my data science and artificial intelligence over here, and but right now I'm working as a data engineer. So I shifted from different company. I had some different role. So in all, whatever I've learned over here, whatever I've learned from my experience, it all totally counts when you want to get to a better place. No, no. Yes, Anand Solanki. So this is not my first job. I was a data analyst in TCS. I have only 2.5 years of experience. So this is like my second job. So first I was in TCS. I was a software developer, and then yes, Ashley Shadi. Okay. So ML seems tough to understand. What do you do? Okay. So for that, what I'd suggest is if you have started any course right now, what you can do is just revise it. Whatever sir is teaching is, whatever the person is teaching you, revise it every day. That's pretty simple. Try to make some small mini projects, some small modules. That will be pretty enough. Just see, if you are looking for getting into ML, the core things you need to know is Python. In Python, Pandas, NumPy, and SQL is very important. And afterwards, you just need to know basics of statistics. Yes. Yes, great. You're an online student. So see, just I'd suggest just go through whatever the person is teaching you, because there are many of my friends who are not from the computer background, and they are doing really very good in ML backgrounds. One of my friend is an ML engineer right now, and he has done BCom. So see, it's just it comes to you how much you practice at the end of your from your side. So you just have to keep on practicing. That's it. It's not that difficult. If you see, if you are really good with linear and logistic regression, I guess all the ML algorithms will be very easy for you. It's just the thing.
Thank you, Ankit, for taking those questions. Students, I would request you to now reserve your questions, because one, Ankit is hard pressed on time, and secondly, we have two other alumni who would like to share their experience. And as Karthik and Vinuta had mentioned at the start of the call, probably Ankit and the other alumni may not be there, but the team of Imarticus will take your questions. In case there's anything specific directed towards the alumni, we'll connect with them offline and we'll get you their answers. So Ankit, once again, thank you very much for sparing time out and coming and sharing your experience with us and the participants on this call. We really appreciate that. We wish you all the very best for your future and your career. Thank you so much, Ankit.
Thank you, Joy. And if anybody has any doubts, you can ping me on LinkedIn. No worries, we can do that, and we can talk over there. Sure. So I'll drop off now. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you so much. So that was Ankit Hirimat. We also have Tejaswini Kumar, who happens to be a postgraduate, who's done the postgraduate program in data analytics and machine learning from Bangalore location. She has been placed with Evoke Technologies. So I would now like to ask her to come and share her experience, what she had while she learned the course at Imarticus and also her placement experience. So Tejaswini, can you please start sharing your experience?
Hi, Joy. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, all. I'm Tejaswini, and I did my post-graduation in data analytics from Bangalore branch of Imarticus, and I'm currently placed as data scientist in Evoke Technologies. And I must say that Imarticus had played a very crucial role in my career, because this is my first job, and my first job itself, I'm starting as data scientist, and all thanks to Imarticus for that. What I really loved in Imarticus is the foundation they give in terms of knowledge. And what I mean here is they just don't teach you the codes of any machine learning algorithms. They also teach you the mathematics that happens behind any algorithm. So that way I'm able to connect more with the data. I'm able to get even more knowledge. And also I was asked to do a lot of Kaggle projects. I had done around 25 Kaggle projects during the course. And not just the number of Kaggle projects were increased. My trainer used to ask me questions related to each of my Kaggle projects. What are the challenges that I faced during the project, and why a particular algorithm worked for this particular data and not for the other. And I was also asked to do or write Python and SQL codes daily, which we had to do it religiously. And I had also done a couple of technical presentations during my course, which was not actually there in the syllabus. So these are the things that helped me to acquire more knowledge in terms of data science, and thanks to my trainer. Also, I should tell about my placement team. The number of opportunities they got us was a surprise to me. And also one more thing, what I really loved is the way they take care of us before we get into any interview. They make sure that we are very ready to face that interview. And if in case, luckily I was not rejected with my first interview, but what I saw in my friends is if they were getting rejected in any company, they used to make sure where they are going wrong and train them in that particular area, so that they are ready for the next company. These are the things and qualities that I liked in Imarticus. So these Kaggle projects, Python and SQL practice was the main thing that got me this job as a data scientist, and thanks to Imarticus.
Thank you, Tejaswini, for sharing your experience. I have one more question for you. What would be your advice to learners who intend to make a career in data science? What would be that one advice that you would want to give all these participants who are there on the call?
Yeah. So what advice, and this is the advice that I got from my trainer and also from my manager where I'm working now, is we had to first see the data. We have to dig more into the data before building any machine learning solutions. We can build the solution with just 3 codes, but what is most important is understanding that data. My trainer used to always tell me that we are something like doctors, and data is like our patients. So doctor usually checks upon different factors before giving the solutions, right? In the same way, as data scientists, we should learn more about the data and then build the solution. So any problem we get, we have to start from the scratch. It can, even though if we know that the solution is very simple or complex, we have to start from the scratch for each and every problem. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you so much, Tejaswini. So there are a couple of questions which we have got on the Q&A and the chat window. So what we'll do is we'll reserve those questions for the end of the session, when we're taking the larger questions at large. So if you can be available with us, we would be happy for you to answer those. Or in your absence, we will, the panel, someone else from the panel will take those questions. So
I'll be there, John.
Yeah, thank you so much once again for sparing time and being with us in terms of sharing your valuable experience with the students. I would now like to call upon Vibhutesh Chatterjee, who's also an alumni of Imarticus Learning from Bangalore region. He has completed the postgraduate program in data analytics and machine learning, and he's placed with one of the largest banking organizations across the world, Standard Chartered. I'm sure Standard Chartered is a very popular name, and most of the participants, rather all of the participants here on the call, would have heard about this organization somewhere or the other. So with that, I would like to call upon Vibhutesh to come and share his experience of learning with Imarticus in the postgraduate program in data analytics and machine learning, and also his placement experience. Vibhutesh, over to you.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. Hi guys, I hope everyone is doing well. If I can hear from someone from the participants, how are you all? Are you enjoying the session? Anyone from the participants? Okay, Prajwal, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So basically, as we all know, we all here are for one single platform, that is Imarticus. 8 months down the lane, I was also like one of the part of this family. I started my journey with Imarticus with post-graduation certification in data analytics. For your information, I would tell you, I was nowhere related to computer science and all. I am a postgrad in chemistry. During the COVID pandemic period, I came to know something about this very interesting and very dynamic field known as data science. So my curiosity was kicked in, and I started on my own. I started to look for sources to know what exactly this field is all about. So first couple of months I tried to figure out. Then I thought, no, this is not working out like this. You have to, if you want to learn something properly, then you have to go through a formal training. Chatra, I'm really sorry, I'm not in a position to turn on my camera. We can have a conversation like this. Yeah, I should continue with that. So basically, after that, I came across this platform, Imarticus Learning. I enrolled myself. Initial days, like first 2 classes, everything was like going in a tangent. Couldn't understand anything, but yeah, patience is something which was required in very initial times. And our trainer, Mr. Gagan Lohar, he was there. He was a very nice trainer. Like the way he explained things was fabulous. It won't take like anyone non-IT student to understand or something like that. One thing I remember what Gagan used to say, that try to get the logics out of whatever the syntaxes you're putting in. So once you get the logic, everything becomes simple. Syntaxes are not that much important. So basically, like this, my training went on. We worked on different projects. Projects are were really important and helpful, because to understand concept of ML or something, you need to like practice on it, see it how practically it is working. So one of my basic suggestions for you people will be like, please focus on the projects which will be given to you, and like work on those things. Like question yourself, why exactly I'm doing this. Is it really worth to do this, or rather I should do this? Like play with the given datas and all. This will I'll suggest. So post training, I will say that training is something which you are going to get very good with the institution. I was from Komangla branch in Bangalore, so I really had a very good training. Post that, when I was 4 months with the institution, placement started coming in. So the placement committee contacted me with some of the opportunities, and I was given an opportunity with one of the largest and well-known bank which operates in more than 3 to 4 continents in the world. So the opportunity was given to me. I was well trained, well versed for that. You don't have to worry about whether you can face the interview properly. You will be given assistance with your soft skills, everything. You will be given a follow-up for every like round of your interview. Everyone will be chasing you for that. You don't have to worry about that. And basically, keep things very transparent with the placement team. I would say, like, if you'll keep things transparent, then your opportunity, like converting the I would say opportunity into your job will be very easier, and the team can help you in a more clarity. With me, that was the case. So basically, this is all about Imarticus, and I would like to say something about the role which I am currently in. I am working as team lead in a business configuration team with Standard Chartered Global Business Services. Basically, my work is related to data analysis. Currently, I am doing analysis of various data which flows into our GBS, and we have to report it on daily basis to different departments. So this is something I would like to say, and I'll put my words a pause over here. Over to other panelists.
Thank you, Vibhutesh. I have one more question for you to take before we call up the other panelists to answer the questions. What is
Sure.
that one piece of information or advice that you would like to give, more from a interview preparation standpoint, to our participants out here who want to make a career in data science or analytics? What's that one most critical piece of information or advice you feel, given your experience of, you must have given multiple interviews, that you would like to share with our participants?
Correct. So basically, when it comes to one advice to the interview, from my perspective, it's everyone's own approach towards an interview which they all are facing. But when it comes to data science, I would rather suggest everyone who is going to face an interview, make a stronghold. For example, if you are strong in SQL, make yourself well versed. Like, you can design your intro in such a way that you can drive the interview towards your strong points. For example, you are like uh, great in linear regression. Any kind of questions coming out of linear regressions, you can play around it. So prepare yourself in such a way that you can drive the interview towards your strong positions and make it revolve around it. You can expect other questions also according to the requirement of the job, but sometimes it's easier when you try to steer the interview rather than giving the steering to the interviewer. So this is basically one of the points which I could like to make.
Thank you, Vibhutesh. Very valid point. So with that, we have all our three alumni sharing their experience, and I hope the participants were able to understand what they have explained and it's helped them in some way or the other. I would now like to call upon Karthik once again to probably take the questions that have been asked by the participants in the chat box and in the Q&A box. So thank you, Vibhutesh, once again.
Thank you so much, guys.
Karthik, we have the Q&A now, right?
Yeah. I was just checking, where do we start with? Do we want to pick the ones from the ones on YouTube, or should we start with the ones here?
So can I read you the questions which have come up on the Q&A of the chat box, and you can take it up from there?
Sure, we can do that.
So the first question is from Kanan Subramaniam. His question is, what are the issues for non-computer science students when compared with computer science or math students?
What are the issues, is it? I think one of the issues with non-computers background is that they are not so well versed with the coding aspects, but that's okay, right? Not everybody comes from a coding background. Like I think the previous student also mentioned that they can come from any background, and as long as they're willing to learn, it's okay. But from an issue point of view, only issue is they would not be so comfortable from the concepts of data structures and algorithms, concepts of OOPS for when we start with, which other engineering students might have done for a semester or two in their college curriculum. But having said that, the curriculum of Imarticus takes care of those aspects by helping them understand the foundations of coding, and hand holding them to kind of, sharpen their skill set. So the only issue here that I see is they do not come from that background, but that's something that we'd be happy to bridge. But that needs to come with that learner's mindset that, hey, I'm willing to put in that extra effort to learn and, upskill myself on the coding side. That's the only difference.
Thank you, Karthik. I'm picking up one more question, which is from the chat. This was ideally directed to Ankit, but I think the participants would like to hear your view as well. The question says, machine learning seems tough to understand. What do we do? This was asked by an online student of Imarticus.
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole concept, the world of machine learning is vast. There are hundreds of algorithms, and it's been there. It's been there since many years, and not in the last 2 to 5 years, right? It's been there since the 60s and the 70s. The reason why this has come into limelight is because of the explosion of data. There's so much more data to apply ML algos as such. There's so much more computational power to do those crunching through cloud technologies and whatnot, right? And we have the necessary people to do that now. So yes, ML is vast, sometimes it can be very tricky, confusing as well. But at the same time, what needs to be thought through is 80% of our problems in the industry are either a regression problem or a classification problem. So if I were to kind of pick out of the hundreds of algorithms, if I were to tell you the top 5, then it would be as simple as your linear regression, logistic regression, random forest, clustering to do some segmentation, and a time series modeling, right? These are my top 5, and 80% or 90% of industry problems can be solved using these techniques only. So like Vibhutesh mentioned, if you can work on your strengths rather than focusing on boiling the entire ocean, can we look at, I know as part of a curriculum, we teach 10 to 12 different ML algos, but I would make life simpler by helping you, do half of it well, understand half of those, which is the top 6 that I talked about. If you can champion those, understand those thoroughly instead of understanding everything, I think that still will make your life simpler and will make ML a lot more simpler. And the other side of it is not just reading it or studying it from a theory point of view, but applying that into a practical world. That's when you kind of get that essence of problem solving, right? That, hey, I applied this ML technique to solve this problem. Let's say I applied a logistic regression problem to understand customer churn. And then when you solve that to entirety, that's when you get the kick out of solving problems, right? And life becomes much simpler, and you'll not look at ML as a complex thing, but something that's fun and something that gives you superpowers to solve problems.
True, very valid points, Karthik. I think there's one more question which was asked while Tejaswini was sharing her experience. So Tejaswini, if you're there, I would like to, call you up once again to take this question from Daniel Christopher. It says, is learning mathematical concept important while learning ML? So Tejaswini, if you're there and if you'd like to take this question, since it was directed to you by...
Yes, sure. Yeah. Yeah, mathematical concepts is very important when learning machine learning, because that is where I'll get to know what type of machine learning model I have to apply to what type of data. There might be different regression models, but not all regression models will be applied to a similar type of data. Like boosting has a different mathematical concept, and decision tree random forest has different mathematical concept. So when I understand what happens behind that is the mathematical part, I'll be able to build even a better effective solutions. If I don't know, I'll simply just go on applying the models, and whatever the highest accuracy it gives, I present it. But that is not the case. I have to first understand the mathematics so that I can build a better solution. So mathematics is the key in understanding machine learning models.
Thank you, Tejaswini. I hope, Daniel, you were able to get insights from Tejaswini's answer. The next question, I think, is for Karthik. It says, it's asked from, I can't see the name of the participant, but the question goes, how much of object-oriented concepts are used in machine learning or analytical problems? I understand it is specific to business problem, but with your experience, how much do you think is used?
Yeah, that's a good question. Object-oriented programming, I mean, that's where the fundamentals of programming lies, right? And you need to know those concepts well in order to build better solutions. What that means is, yes, we don't need expert coders to become a, I mean, for data scientists, you don't have to be an expert coder, but you have to be a good coder. And when I say good, that's subjective. Let me quantify that, right? If you are able to, build a simple, like, let's say there is a need to automate a few solutions, meaning you need to be in a situation to write your for loop, your while loop, if else loops, your function, lists, tuples, extracting data and automating data, doing a lot of feature engineering. Some of these concepts might be very new to some people, but the ones who are understanding, right, there are different levels of coding skill sets that are needed, and you don't have to be an expert in it to at the level of a software developer, but you need to be enough, you need to know enough to kind of codify that problem, which is statistical, right? The previous question where you asked how much of math is important, it is important enough to translate a business problem into a statistical problem, and that statistical problem you need to codify to be able to write those codes. And in order to do that, object-oriented programming comes in very, very handy for you to understand the basics of writing these loops, functions, defining these variables, and all of those things, to be able to then build better models, or be able to do lot many other feature engineering kind of things with the data using any scripting language, right? So I would say it's like a foundation. It's very much needed, but I wouldn't say it's like you have to be a champion in it. But it's great if you are, but if not, even at least you need to be at a good 50% level at least, and be able to codify things from a problem point of view.
Thanks, Karthik. So that question was asked by Santosh, and Santosh, I hope you have got insights to your answer. The next question is by Ashwini Mori, and her question is, I am from commerce background, but very much interested in data science. Can I start with data science, or do I need to have some skills before starting data science? So,
yeah, like I said, as long as you're willing to learn and come with an open approach, being more inquisitive or curious, being creative, being having that problem solving attitude, yes, you can definitely get into this field for sure. One of the prerequisites, I would say, because you come from a commerce background, would be if you can start working yourself on some simple coding. It could be R, it could be Python. I would say, if you were to pick one, I would say Python. If you can just get started on that, that becomes a good prerequisite for you to build on further. That Python or coding skill sets would be essentially, in your case, specifically your case, I'm talking here, it'll be like a foundation layer that you can start working on, and then get full-fledged into your other stuff like SQL, statistics, so on and so forth, and then complex advanced topics from there. But I think one of the things for you would definitely be to start picking up some coding skill sets, and that'll be very, very handy for you to further boost exponentially in terms of other concepts.
Thanks. Thank you, Karthik, once again. So Ashwini, I hope for your question has been answered. So Karthik, the next question is from Payal. It says, she asks, can a BSc non-medical student become a data scientist? And I think to an extent you have answered a part of it while you were answering Ashwini's question. So any further insights for BSc non-medical? Please feel free to let us know.
Sure, Joy. I would like to add this, like back in those days, yes, like I talked about in my presentation as well, right? Roles are getting very, very well defined, which means there are business analysts, there are data analysts, data engineers, business intelligence engineers, ML engineers, and then there is data scientists as such. The bigger one of them is the data scientist. So you can always start in a journey which transforms you from, you can start small. Obviously, the end objective is to become a data scientist, but you can start by becoming a business analyst or a data analyst, where you start accumulating some skill sets. You get better at it, and then you transform fully to a data scientist. that can be another journey to look at for somebody who comes from a non-coding, non-medical, whatever be the option. While the objective is to become a data scientist, you can, the smaller flavors of it exist today, and many companies are hiring data analysts as well. And then maybe you spend some time and then you can work towards a data scientist role as such. But it is possible, and as long, again, tying back the same answer, as long as you're willing to learn, all of this will be possible.
Thank you, Karthik. So we have, I think we've just overshot our scheduled time, and we have last 5 minutes of grace time. So I think there was one question which came to us on YouTube, which wherein the participant has asked, what skills should we focused on to get placed? So that would be our last question for the day. So Karthik, if you want to take that up, and then we can.
Sure. I think the answer was in the presentation. Again, I'll go back to one of the slides where I talked about what skill sets, that summary slide, right? Where you need to be good with your stats or math. What that means is you need to understand the statistical concepts well. You need to understand what kind of distribution data would be, what does chi-square test mean, or basic statistical aspects of it, right? And then that means you need to be good with your math. That is one key ingredient. The next ingredient is your coding skill sets. You need to be able to code things. The next one is your articulation or your business domain knowledge. When you marry these three together, right, that's when you'll be able to crack interviews. I'll take one level deeper. Let's say, for example, you need to be, what all of these essentially means is you should be able to write, let's say if I'm asking you in a typical interview, right, for a data science role, the kind of questions I would ask is, I'll start with a simple Excel-based, formula-based questions, or some simple pivot tables or VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP. Then I would move into asking more questions on the SQL side of it. Can you write a simple query which would fetch this data? Or can you join two tables and give me data for a particular data set? And then I would move slightly more complex to test, that is testing SQL skills. Then Python, you would look at some Python snippet of codes. Can you write XYZ kind of a snippet or a code or what? And then I would also test questions around statistical concepts. What does a confusion matrix mean? How do you imply that into, real world scenario? How do you infer results? What is an ROC curve? What is an R square? So these are my statistical concepts and ML concept that you should be very, very good with. And then the last part is when, if I were to throw you a problem saying, hey, I am company XYZ and I have a high attrition problem in my company. Can you help me understand which of my employees are likely to attrite? So that's like a simple case study. Then I expect you to go from what would be your approach? How do you define the problem? How do you, bring in assumptions, hypothesis to really build, some kind of solution for that? So these are the kind of questions that will come, for which you need to take a step back, be good with your math, that is your stats, be good with your coding, and then the business domain. And together, when questions are asked, you are able to answer any of those. And typically a data science role will entail all of these flavors. And if I were to pick, those three, it would be, you need to be good with your SQL/Python. You need to be good with your mathematical and statistical concepts. And lastly, your machine learning algorithms to, really pick and choose what algorithm fits in well to solve a particular problem, right? I hope that's the longer answer for that question.
Thank you. Thank you, Karthik. So we have Tejaswini who, wants, there were a couple of points which she missed out in her earlier experience sharing. So would like to quickly call upon Tejaswini, and once Tejaswini is done, we'll have Vinuta to close the session for us with the closing remarks. Tejaswini, over to you.
Yeah, so Joy, I see a lot of questions like if a commerce background can do a data science or get into this field. What I want to share is in my batch, there were only 2 people who were from CSE and ISE background. There were a combination of commerce, and me myself is not related to CS or ISE. I'm from industrial engineering and management background, which is more of mechanical side. And in my batch, around nearly 85 to 90% have been placed. That means even though if you're not from CSE or ISE background, you can still get into data science and still get a role in this data science umbrella. So that won't be an issue unless and until you're serious about this course. Imarticus is a place where you can just succeed if you are serious about getting into this field. If you're someone who wants to enjoy just like your college life, then this is not the place. I'm sorry. But if you're someone who really want to get into data science, then this is a go-to place. So that's what I wanted to say, and I missed it at that. So yeah.
Thank you. So over to Vinuta now for the closing.
Thanks, Joy. Tejaswini, thank you so much. That last bit was, it was just like bang on, right? So thank you so much for those inputs, and thanks to Karthik and Joy. Karthik majorly for helping each one of them in the session to understand how this domain functions and what are the important skill sets they should learn and how to build those as well. Thank you so much for sharing that with the entire audience, and thanks to Joy for helping with our alumni in explaining their journey, and they were able to share their experiences in terms of what they have done so far and what are the key things that the others should be able to follow. So thanks to both of you for that. So how was the session, guys? Did you guys enjoy it? Put your responses in the chat window. Great, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we do hope that the last 16 minutes was great. We were able to bring in a lot of knowledge sharing. Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for such a lovely response. So thank you, everyone, for being a part of the session. So it was really great for us to interact with each one of you. So we do hope the session helped. And in case if you would want to connect with us for a one-to-one counseling, where we are able to analyze your profile, because a lot of questions came in that you come from a BCom background, you come from a pharmacy background. How would you be able to do this, right? Because every profile is different. We would be happy, we would be glad to spend a good amount of 20-30 minutes for a one-to-one counseling session with you and help you understand in terms of what kind of career path you can choose, right? So feel free to connect to us. All of you do have our email IDs and contact number. So do feel free to connect with us. Alternatively, we will also try to reach out to you in terms of taking feedback for the session. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it. Have a great evening ahead. So we're going to wrap up the session right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.